Hi.
Hi.
Could you see my awful, my setup? I forgot to turn the camera the right way and it started, I have like a old box and my setup is not very high tech. It was showing my little back end setup, which is pretty, low rent, but
It
that's
happens
okay. It
sometimes.
happens. Welcome. How are you?
I am good. How are you?
I am good. Everybody, this is Catiara Marie joining me. She is an amazing tarot reader. I think very gifted and very insightful, and also a wonderful teacher and speaker as well. Um, so, thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, I'm happy to. I can't wait till your deck and your book come
Oh,
out. I mean, of
oh,
course,
thank
I
you.
already own it,
That's
but
right.
it's really cool to see it, mass published. That's
Thank
awesome.
you.
So
I'm very,
excited.
very excited. Yeah, I'm very excited. So today, Kat and I are going to talk, and you don't mind if I call you
Not
Kat,
at all.
right? I'm used to so Caddy R is kind of one of my friends, and so in the tarot community, so we kind of know each other beyond just the socials. So I tend to call her Cat, and which is honestly a great segue since we're going to talk about cat energy and cat symbolism. But if that's okay, I will probably just call you Cat this whole chat.
Most
But
people
that doesn't mean
do.
everybody else can call her Cat. Not it's just me, okay? Um, let's just dive right in. I was thinking we would talk cat first, if that's okay with
Sounds
you, cat.
good to
And
me.
I brought my
Yeah.
special water bottle. See, I have these little kitties.
Aw, that's adorable.
I thought you'd like
I
that. Isn't
do.
that cute?
I've seen that water bottle with bats a lot, but I've
Yeah,
not seen it with cats. I
I
like
know.
it. I like it a lot.
I found it. It was like a Halloween edition, but now it's just my all the time bottle. The first thing I'd love to hear is, well, let's talk about where we find cats in the tarot. The only place I really am aware of as far as a single house cat is the Queen of
Yep.
Wands. Um, and so
That's
I
all I'm aware of as
love that. So
well.
everybody can see that little kitty. That's in the OG Rider-Waite Smith. That cute little, kind of funny looking little black
I
cat.
mean, now
Um,
there's a million decks out there, and there's decks that are nothing but cats. So,
there are a lot of feline and cat energy decks, which is very cool because they are beloved animals for a reason.
hmm
Do you own any specific cat decks?
yes, I do. This one is my favorite.
Oh, I think I've seen that one before. Is it well done?
It is.
Yeah.
It's very well done. It literally looks like the Rider Waite.
Oh,
So,
okay, but with kitties.
but with yeah, just not to mention like me, I love skulls and stuff. So this is the
Right.
back.
Oh, that's
Isn't
cool.
that cool?
Yeah.
And then so you've got you know the
Oh, so they
kitties.
really did kind of a similar, the artwork is very similar, but with kitty cats.
Yeah.
Oh, that's actually
So it's
really
very
cool.
easy
I
to
like
read.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I could
And
get into that for sure. Oh, was the sunflowers the Queen of
no,
Wands?
that's the Three of
Oh,
Wands. But
okay.
here's
Oh,
the queen.
I love that they have sunflowers.
Here's the Queen of Wands.
Oh, they still got the little black cat with the big queen. Oh, I
Yeah,
love that. It's like a little kitten instead of a main cat. I love it. That's
yeah.
super
So
cute.
I mean, if you're going to go with a cat deck, this is definitely one of my favorites because I
Yeah,
love how easy it is to read because it's very similar to the Rider Waite.
right, right. That's cool. Whoops. Oh, my high-tech setup's already failing on me here, Kat. Oh my gosh. All right, there we go. Hopefully it'll stay. So what are some of your personal associations? What do you associate with cat symbolism?
Probably one of the main words that I would use to describe cats is independent. Um,
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm a cat lover. I've had cats my whole life. I currently have four living in my house.
Wow.
Uh, and I mean, some of them, like, they all have very different personalities, and some of them, while they can be like cuddle bugs, it's still on their terms.
Right.
They are
Right.
very, very
Kind of
independent. So if they want
aloof.
attention, they seek it. But if you try to track them down and give it to them, good luck.
Yeah. Yeah. They're definitely it's on their own time and when they want it for sure.
Mhm.
I have two cats as well, not four, but two. And they're very different personalities between the two of them as well. Very different. They're night and day, literally. I had this quote I wanted to read that I thought was really funny about because you always think about if people are cat people or dog people. I actually am both because I have a dog too. I love dog energy too, but there is very different energy. But I found this quote from this person who'd made a documentary about these street cats, and he said, It's said that cats are aware of God's existence, but dogs are not. Dogs think people are gods. Cats know that people are middlemen to God's will. They're not ungrateful, they just know better. And I thought that was kind of funny because they're kind of more wise in that way. Like
Hmm.
it's not that they're like, whereas dogs just dote on you and think you've hung the moon. Cats are
Right.
never going to kind of have that same energy, but it's just that they know better. It's not that they don't respect you. It's just they know that you're not the end all be all. They know that you're not a deity,
I feel like
you
they're very,
know.
very intuitive.
Yes.
Just, I
Yes.
mean, a lot of people will refer to it as like instinct, but I think it's deeper than instinct.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think it's more than just their nature. I think they really are intuitive. I mean,
Right.
they they've said in the past, like meteorologists and stuff say, looked at all animals, but especially cats, to predict like earthquakes and things like that. Like
Oh,
they
yeah.
just kind of know things are coming,
Right.
you know?
Right. They know before we do for sure.
Yeah, like again with my cats, like each of my kids has a cat.
Uh-huh. I love that.
So when like when they are off at school or out with friends or something, when they're getting ready to come home, like not even in this area but just they're on their way, the cats know it. They're at the
Right.
door, they're waiting. They just know that their person is on their way home.
Yeah. And it's that one person that's there
Hmm.
that they're most bonded to.
Yep.
I love that. I always joke that my husband has cat pheromones because he's actually slightly allergic to cats, which, this is not unheard of. I think because we've always had cats, because it wasn't such a severe allergy he couldn't push through, and he loves them. But they always flock to him. And I've had cats that I brought in that were literally like my cats. And they do love me still, but it's like they would vie for space on him. They want to like lick his, he usually has like a little goatee or beard, and they want to like groom him in ways that they don't seem to care for me and my son. It's just funny that he gives off some kind of cat scent or glandular thing. I don't know. But I finally have a kitty that's kind of mine. That's we've had for about 2 years, named Obi, and Obi is actually my cat finally. Because I would always be the ones like, let's get a kitty and bring a new cat in, and they'd be instantly like my husband's cat.
Yeah, bond to someone else. Yep.
Yeah. And my son so desperately wants a cat that's all about him. And I mean, they'll tolerate him, but they're definitely like specific to either me or my husband. So one day we'll find his cat. That's just for him that kind of bonds with him. But
Yeah,
it's funny
it
how
it
they're
worked
choosy.
out really well for us when it came time to like picking cats. Um, it just so happened that like each kid that chose their cat or their cat chose them, I don't know, they bonded instantly. And like now, like at bedtime, you tell them like it's time for bed, and their cat will follow them to bed.
Oh, that's so
Like,
cute.
yeah,
I love
they're
that.
they are super bonded with their individual cat. It is pretty
Yeah.
cool. And then we
Yeah.
have one cat that is I don't. I guess he's bonded to my husband, but my husband
Mhm.
is like, whatever. Like, I mean, he likes cats, but it's not like he had the desire to have a cat.
Right.
But it's kind of funny to just, everywhere he goes, the cat follows him around, and he's like, oh, okay, we're gonna do this.
Like, okay. That's funny. What other associations do you make with cats? I mean, do you pull in when you think of cat symbolism, other cultural significance or
Well, I
um,
mean, so I mean, I think at some point most of us have read about or heard about like the Egyptians basically almost worshiping cats.
right.
And what I love about cats is I think if you had to assign them a zodiac, like I feel like cats are Geminis because they are very, very contradictory. They are very like yin yang kind of energy.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the things that we talk about cats kind of go opposite. Like I remember reading in your book about cats being associated with like solar energy and the
Hmm.
sun god Ra and all that, but I'm like, but also they go with lunar energy and the moon and femininity. So it's like they have both.
They
They
have that
are very
duality.
yeah, they are very dualistic in that nature. And it's kind of like even as like an animal itself, they're okay, let's see if I don't kill this word. I can't. I can never say it. Crest.
Oh, crepuscular?
Yes,
I think
crepuscular.
I'm saying
Yeah,
that right. I know
I
what you're
think
talking about.
so.
They're
But
liminal.
yeah, so they are
Yeah.
busiest at twilight. At dawn and
Yeah,
dusk kind of thing. So
in
they're right
between
in
times.
between. the
Yeah.
day and night. They're not nocturnal, they're not diurnal, they're crepuscular.
Yes, that's such
So
a good word.
and
Yes, I
everything
love that.
about them is very kind of dualistic like that. And that's what I
Right.
love about cats is, and like I said, they're very independent, but their personalities, they can range from one extreme to the other too. Like
That's
some
true.
cats don't want you to come anywhere near them.
Right.
Other cats, as soon as you walk in the door, they're rubbing on your leg trying to get your attention.
Right. Yeah. No, I love that. Crepuscular is such a good word. I love that. And it makes them definitely, I think, associated with, and they obviously are associated with already, but magic
Hmm.
even more, because anything in that liminal space, that the workings of the liminal space, when like the crepuscular, most active at twilight and
Yeah.
dusk,
They're
that's
in
kind of the
they're in the
magical
in
times too.
between.
They're in the betweens, and I think that's probably one of the reasons they make a natural familiar in witchcraft or as far as always having that history of being associated with having very close bonds to witches and doing the magic. So
And
I think
even when you
that's
start to dive into like the different things about like different societies, in some societies, cats are good luck. Black
yeah,
cats are good
yeah,
luck. In other societies, they're bad luck. And
right,
it's like so it's always like this dualistic thing. And I cannot for the life of me remember where I read it, but I read that like even in like Western society, we always talk about cats having 9 lives,
uh-huh.
but I guess in Eastern society, they have 7 lives.
Oh, that's interesting. I don't think
Yeah,
I've read that.
yeah. So I was like,
Yeah,
I mean, it's just little differences in different places. Like I said, they're good luck, they're bad luck, they're this, they're that. It's almost always like back and forth, but I think that they're kind of revered everywhere to some degree.
yeah, yeah, that's true. And definitely going back to, I don't mean to go backwards, but to that Egyptian association, we almost can't not talk about like Bastet, because they have the whole, cat-headed
Hmm.
goddess. That's a major player in their pantheon, associated with like fertility, the home, all those good, a lot of things around women's issues and womanly power, being very much a protector goddess. And I sometimes when I look at the Queen of Wands, even though that kitty is just, a little bitty kitty, I feel like there's still that same energy because that cat is poised in front of the Queen of Wands. It's almost like some of that Bastet Egyptian energy of like, they're there to protect their who they're in. What am I trying to say? And I don't know if the Queen of Wands is per se the witch and that's their familiar, but I guess that's one way you could spin it. But that cat is there as a protector almost,
Yeah,
even
yeah,
even
I
its small
agree.
frame. I also love that cats, and I think this goes back to Queen of Wands energy too, because Queen of Wands knows herself. She's in her seat of power. She is in her confidence. And
Hmm.
you think about house cats they're pretty small compared to like the big felines. But I think I read, here I have my nerd notes. What is it? House cats share 95.6% of their genetic makeup with tigers.
I
I mean,
believe that.
that's just a hair away from a damn tiger. And they own
They
it.
do.
They walk around like it too. They know
Oh
they've
yeah,
got the power.
I've seen teeny tiny cats go after giant
Yes.
dogs without hesitation. I
Yes.
Yeah, they definitely have confidence.
Right, right. And that definitely obviously ties back to that Queen of Wands energy. I think having the kitty cat there. I guess I don't have to call it a kitty cat, but I like saying kitty cat. That confidence, that solar plexus energy of kind of owning who they are, their authority, their power, all of it, especially goes with the big predatory felines that they're so closely linked to.
Right. And like with when you talk about cats and you talk about like all the I guess different sayings and stuff, there's things like, curiosity killed the cat. So I mean, things like that just let you know that they're always up to something, they're always into something.
Right.
And then there's also, which to me it kind of ties back for me personally to the high priestess, is like, when people are talking about secrets and they're like, oh, don't let the cat out of the bag.
Oh, yeah.
It's like the
Yeah,
cats, they hold the secrets.
that's
They're
right.
into
The
everything, they're
mysteries.
curious, they know everything, but they don't
Yeah,
share it. So
I
it's
like that.
this kind of connection between the Queen of Wands and the High Priestess.
Right, right. Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And it makes me think of you and Reese doing, with your what's the word for that? The sayings,
The
the idiom.
adages or
Yeah,
idioms
the
or
idioms or adages. So I love that. I love those kind of associations too, all those different sayings with the word cat in it. Um, and again, okay, going back to Egyptian again, I don't mean to keep, staying, but I just love Egyptian anything. I also read that Bastet, in addition to all the other things she's known for as a goddess, is the kind of patron goddess of firefighters. And I thought that was kind of interesting since the Queen of Wands brings a lot of that good fire
Yeah.
energy. There's obviously the Wands is a suit of fire. She is in her power in that element. And so I thought that was really interesting. Apparently that's based on when they believe the ancient Egyptian belief was when a cat was fleeing from a building that was on fire, that they were actually pulling the flames out with them, almost like fighting the fire, magically. So I thought that was kind of an interesting that they kind of also granted them that belief too, that they even had the power to possibly control and fight fire. I thought that
That
was
is
really
cool.
interesting.
That is
Yeah, and that
that's
definitely
really
adds
cool.
another layer to that fiery Queen of Wands energy. Um, I what else have I read? I have all my nerd notes. Also the Egyptians, you talked about how they're so revered
Hmm.
in Egyptian culture too. And they were pets, but they were obviously held to, the kind of that elevated standard as well. So they were often mummified when they died, just like humans were. They were given all the honors and funerary rites of a human. But I also read that if a pet cat died, they would shave their eyebrows in mourning.
Yes, I read that too,
Yeah.
and I thought that was very interesting. And I was like, oh, I don't. I mean, I love my cats. I don't know if I could do
Yeah,
that. Like,
yeah, my
I
my
mean,
eyebrows are kind of sparse as it is. I'd be afraid they wouldn't come back.
well, and that's just it. But it makes sense. I mean, because typically I would think it takes probably at least what 6 to 8 weeks for your eyebrows to grow
Yeah.
back.
I mean,
So
I
I
guess
mean
that would
that
be a mourning period
right,
too. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
that's an interesting way to signify that you're in mourning in it. You know,
Yeah,
like
I don't know the origins of why specifically the eyebrows, but I think it's intriguing. I might have to dig into that one more to find out why did they choose to shave the eyebrows
it's
and not their whole
prob-
head.
right. Well, yeah, but I mean, it's probably something that is maybe like noticeable, but also it's something that anyone could do, male, female, young, old,
That's true.
because,
That's true.
I mean, I don't know enough about the Egyptian culture to know if they had significant male pattern baldness. You know what I mean? So, like,
Right,
I
right.
think that a lot of the things that I've read, many of them died young, but again, that time period, uh, there wasn't the greatest medicine and things of that nature. But if there was things like different hairstyles, different hair issues. Like, I think for the most part, the eyebrows would have been something that anybody, young or old, could have done as a signifier for
That's
being
a
in
real
mourning.
that's a really good point because a whole family could technically do that if they lost their cat and
Right.
because they would all have the eyebrows to give. That's
Right. Because,
interesting.
yeah, because not, most women, young men don't have facial hair, so
Mhm.
in order to make it where it's, I guess that would be my assumption. I haven't like done the deep research on it, but
Right,
in order
right,
for it to be noticeable, it's something that, anyone of that time period could take part in and show their sense of loss in their mourning.
right, right. That's a really good point. Yeah. Another science kind of nerd fact I read was that cats have 32 muscles in just their ears. And, obviously we know that they're very much able to kind of telescopically rotate those ears in all directions to really kind of hear fine noises that we aren't hearing. And I know that they hear kind of frequencies we don't hear as well. And in my mind, the frequencies is interesting because that almost to me goes back to like giving them another nod to being magical. Because
Hmm.
if you think about being able to hear more easily other higher frequencies that we as humans can't hear, that's almost like being able to hear the divine a little bit better, more tuned in, a little bit more tapped in than we are naturally, as far as being able to hear things very clearly. Do you think that ties in energetically to the Queen of Wands at all, as far as the cats being able to hear so acutely?
I mean, I think so. I feel like that the Queen of Wands does have a somewhat um, intuitive nature, not quite as intuitive of some of the other um, archetypes within the tarot,
Sure.
but I definitely think she's in tune with what I would say like situational awareness. I
Right.
feel like that particular queen just knows her shit. She knows what's going on. She's very confident. She's very ambitious. I've always described her as being like just vibrant and present. in the here and now. So I feel like
Right.
she would be very attuned with what is going on. So yeah, she would have keen, you know, visual and audio and all of the different senses, and just be tapping into those to know exactly what's going on around her at all times.
Yeah,
Because I do feel she's very present in the moment. Where
definitely.
I feel
I mean, she's
like
definitely powerful.
the Queen of Cups is a little more like free flowy,
Hmm.
very intuitive, but maybe not necessarily like as on point, you know.
Right. Yeah, I
So
agree.
I could definitely
I agree.
see how the you know, the ability to hear higher frequencies and things like that can also tap in, because it just, I feel like it allows the cat as well as the queen to just be more present with what is surrounding them at that moment.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. I agree with that. I think I also think it could be on the flip side if you pull the Queen of Wands, a reminder to make sure you're listening, well and hearing things well. And the only reason I say that, because I agree with everything you said, just like anything, there's those layers of what might resonate with you with that card. Because I agree with all of that, but I also think that I sometimes feel like the Queen of Wands, because of the fire energy, it's a very swift, kind of fast-paced energy. I feel like it makes me think of my own, like having a little bit of ADHD, a little bit like where I'm a little bit like all over the place. Because the way that fire is very just sparky and quick, and it can be great, but if you can very easily be missing or distracted and not hearing things and not picking up things if you're not grounded in that energy. Definitely, I agree with you though, more first and foremost, because she looks very grounded in
Right.
that energy.
That,
She is in her
like,
seat of power, but if you, it's also maybe a warning of just like, oh, are you listening? Are you distracted? Do you need to,
yeah,
what do you
because
need to
what
do
you're
to hear better?
describing to me sounds very Knight of Wands in
Yeah,
her.
that quick fiery
Yes.
energy. Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
I mean, and I think there is a tendency when we look at the tarot court as a whole to go from the page through the king back and forth as, you know, different parts. Because to me, I look at the court cards almost as like a progression through life. So
Right.
you've got, you know, the youth, you know, with the page, and then the I guess like teen to middle age, and then as you get older and more mature with the queen and the king. And so when you bring that energy, I think by the time you get to the queen, I do think she is a little bit more studious and a little bit more like knowing to slow down and to temper that fire. Like she has the fire, she has that brilliance, that vibrancy, but she also has control of it.
Oh,
Like you said, she is
yes,
sitting in her
control.
seat of power,
Yeah.
you know, where prior to that, with that night energy, that might be what propelled her to get to that throne.
Right. Right. Ooh, I like that. Propelled her to get to that throne. Ooh, yes, I like that. That's a great way to put it.
But I mean, and when you think about the house cat being 90 something percent tiger, uh,
Right.
you know, I mean, I look at tigers that way too. Like, I feel like they, they tend to be a little, maybe a little less organized than, say, a lion. You know, because we always see
Mm,
the lions associated with the wands and things like that,
right.
where you've got the lioness that goes out and does the hunting. The lion is at home waiting for the prey to be brought back to him. You know, the tigers, they all go out, go after what they want.
Yeah.
And that's more that house cat energy. A house cat's not going to wait around for somebody to bring them something. They're just going to go and take what they want. And that's more like the queen, where the king is more the lion, where he's already gotten everything the way that he wants it, and he's delegated to who's going to do what for him.
I
Where the queen
I
still
love
has
this
that power to
actually.
do it, you know?
Yes, yes. I never thought about compare that. I love that analogy because, well, there's the obvious, like there's actually lions on his throne, on the king's throne, so there are the lion symbols. But while we don't have a direct damn tiger in the Queen of Wands, linking the house cat more closely to the tiger genetically,
Mm-hmm.
I love that association because they aren't this similar in their hunting style. They don't, there's not any part of them in their society that waits around. They go out and get what
Right.
they want when they want it. I
And
love
they're,
that
but they're both
between the king and the
cats,
queen.
you
Yeah.
know, and that's what
Yeah.
we're talking about, right? That feline energy or whatever, the
Right.
cats, whether it be a house cat, domesticated house cat, or the big cats. And it's just a matter of the way that they interact in their society is slightly different, just as the court cards interact slightly different, but they
Right.
are all started part of the same family.
Yeah, yeah. That was brilliant. That's actually gonna I'll probably change the way I look at the Queen of Wands and King of Wands now. No, seriously, because it's really like a new observation of just lion versus tiger. I actually really love
Yeah,
that. And then
I
I guess
mean,
if the Queen of Wands and the King of Wands get together, they can make a liger,
yeah,
right? They can make a crossbreed,
they definitely could. Yeah.
like a Napoleon Dynamite. Um, Brilliant. I love all of that. So just kind of summing up cat energy again, very independent. They're cunning, they're
They are.
magical, they're protective, a little bit lucky possibly, but again, a lot of
Lucky, unlucky.
duality, but
Yeah, that's
mhm,
the
a lot of
big thing is
duality.
duality. Almost
Yeah.
anything that you can say about them, you can also say the opposite about them.
Yes.
And I love that.
I love
It's
that too.
that's where that cunningness comes in. They're sneaky in a sense of like, which side of this coin are they today?
Right. And maybe they're not going to be as easy to figure out as like a dog.
Right.
Like a dog is never going to, its dog doesn't have any way to mask its emotions. It's just going to be, you're going to know if it's
Yeah,
upset or
the
if it's
tail's gonna
happy
be
or,
wagging. Yeah.
yeah,
The cat,
it doesn't have any skills of masking. So,
right, the cat, it could vary. I mean, they can be super happy and contain all of that.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
like they're
Hmm.
just an interesting creature in that sense, and I love that about them.
Yeah, definitely. So any final thoughts on a cat energy and cat symbolism before we move on to the caduceus?
Not really. Like I said, I think my favorite thing about them is the duality
Mm.
of them.
Yeah,
Because a lot of the things that we talk about with cats, it can be both. They can be lucky, they can be unlucky, they can be independent, they can be clingy.
right.
Like I said, with the tiger and the lion, one of them can go out after its own prey while the other just lays around and waits. I mean,
Right.
they have this duality when you're looking at cats as a whole, that is just not like any other creature.
Yeah.
Most creatures, they are what they are, but the cat, it depends on the day, depends on the time.
Would you say cats are in that way more similar to humans than a lot of other animals? Because, like you said, a lot of animals are just what they are, and it's almost like
I
very
think it
direct and obvious.
I think it depends
Whereas
on the
cats have
human.
all those kind of cunning, like the way humans can kind of mask and kind of play roles and kind of be a little more like maybe I'm going to be more guarded today. Maybe I'm not going to let you know all my cards. It's almost like they kind of merge a little bit closer to the human realm in that
Yeah,
sense.
definitely. But I think it also depends on the human too, because not all
That's
humans
true.
are good at that.
That's
Some
true.
are very good at having that duality and that mask and changing things, and others are just they are what they
Right.
are, So it's yeah, it's interesting. But I would definitely say they do share some similarities with humans in that way,
Right. Right.
in that
Right.
they have personality, that they change
Yeah.
personality, that, you're not always sure what mood they're in.
Yeah, and they have the skills if they're good at it, they have the skills to actually hide or show depending on what they feel like doing. I'd say of the two of us, you're definitely more cat-like, literally cat, and I'm probably a little more dog-like because I don't think I'm actually as skilled at hiding my emotions and I'm definitely a little bit more like, "Hi, are we friends?"
But I mean,
Like I'm a
like
little bit
even
more
with cats, like you
dog-like.
can be petting them and they're all happy, and all of a sudden you get to like the third pet and they bite, like randomly
Right.
out of nowhere. I'm like,
Right.
what did I do?
Right. Like what was that
They're just like,
about?
well, I'm done now.
Unpredictable. There's another good keyword.
Yes,
Unpredictable. Yeah.
unpredictable for
Awesome.
sure.
Well, I think that's a good ending for our cat part. And maybe we'll find some crossover to an intersection with our next symbol.
We
That
will.
was
The
fun.
same
Yeah.
thing, the duality.
That's what I was, yeah, exactly. I'm glad you touched on the duality because that's going to be in the caduceus. So let's shift gears to the caduceus, which is found typically in the Two of Cups in
Mhm.
traditionally. That little Little snaky snakes. I love that you chose caduceus. I didn't think about it when we scheduled this talk, but obviously this is the first day of the Lunar New Year, and we're going into a wood snake year. So the
Hmm.
caduceus brings all the good snaky snake energy with it, as well as a million other layers of meaning. So, let's get started. What are some of your initial thoughts on caduceus energy? Like, what do you tie to
So
it
my
symbolically?
favorite thing about the caduceus is that it's completely misunderstood in the Western society, and they screwed it all up. Like
Yep.
I
Yep.
love that. I
Mistaken
love.
identity.
Right, exactly. So like most people, when you think of the caduceus or you see it, it has to do with healthcare to some degree. It's on ambulances, it's on all these things that in doctors' offices and everything to represent healing and health and medicine. But the reality is it was never supposed to be that. It was, the symbol of Hermes,
Right.
or Mercury, and so it was the messenger god, and again, another word I'll screw up, but it was supposed to be the rod of
As- a,
Asclepius.
cl- a clepi-
Yeah, exactly.
Asclepius. I think it's
Asclepius.
Asclepius. Yeah, the rod of
Yes.
Asclepius. Yeah.
Which has one serpent
Right. Very
versus the
similar, but
two
just the single.
and
That's
no
right.
wings. And the
Right. Which Hermes
wings,
obviously has the winged sandals and all
exactly.
uses that as a tool to get around too.
Right. So it's interesting how they made that mistake, or if it even was a mistake. I mean, I did some research on it, and like they don't really know exactly how it happened, but some people just think it was for aesthetic reasons because the symbol Hermes is more symmetrical, and
Yes. Yes.
so it's more aesthetically pleasing to the eye than the rod of as, yeah,
Asclepius.
Asclepius.
Asclepius. I think.
Asclepius.
Asclepius. I
I
think I'm saying that right.
think you
Hopefully.
are.
I don't
It's a
know.
difficult name.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. It's almost like where did they purposely rebrand? Do
Right.
a
Yeah.
fresh logo because wasn't really hitting the mark with a single snake. That's a really interesting idea. I always kind of just chalked it up to mistaken identity, like it was just they got confused and associated with the wrong thing. Either way, I think it's one of those. Are there any true mistakes? Because it just gives the staff of Hermes or the caduceus more layers to delve into, because even if it was a mistake and not really supposed to be associated with Asclepius, who is, by the way, for anybody who doesn't know, that's the Greek god of healing and medicine, which is again why with that mistaken identity, people are like, it's all because we still have caduceus all over hospitals, any medical institution in our modern day. So whether or not that was correct, it still is always going to have that power of the sense of healing.
Right.
The sense there's always going to be some that healing energy in the caduceus as a symbol because our collective knows it with hospitals and
And
medicine. So
for me, I
it's
think
already
the
part of
reason
it.
of that is the duality of it, because
Yes.
it's
Yes.
again with the snakes, with the serpents, the venom. It both
Yes.
kills and
Yes.
heals. I mean, that's
Yes.
exactly how they make antivenom. Like
Right.
if you get bitten by a rattlesnake, you're gonna go and get, guess what? Injected with more rattlesnake venom. Uh,
Right. Yeah, it's
it
all about the
just after
dose.
it's
It's more
been,
about the
yeah,
dose in that way. Like
yeah,
the same dose of, or the same thing, like the venom may kill in a certain dose, but in a smaller dose, it can heal. I think
right.
that concept as a whole is fascinating to me.
And that goes along with like anything like herbs and medicine. People talk about, like, right now in our society we have this huge pandemic of people ODing and stuff, but
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
ODing a lot on prescription medication, which taken at the right dose is beneficial.
Right, right. Oh my
So
gosh, my
yeah.
kitty's coming to say hi just when we were talking about kitties. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you.
Is this
This
Obi?
is my Obi, my little
Hi,
Obi.
Obi.
And he's mostly white, but he's got a little tail that like that. So my husband almost tried to make us name him Dipstick. And I
That's
said no.
cute.
Oh, he's just gonna pass on by. There we go. I didn't mean to interrupt you,
No,
but he of course had to come be a part of this. Um,
absolutely.
yes, yes to all that. I love and I love that because I didn't even think about that when you chose cat and caduceus, but there is that common thread of the duality. I love that when the layers of symbols start to intersect too. So if we talk about some of this stuff that we're seeing in the caduceus, and we go back to the two of cups. So what are your thoughts on what all the caduceus brings to the table with the two of cups? So we have obviously
So
the main things being the dual, where there's the asclep oh my
I
God,
know.
Asclepius or Hermes. So we got the two kind of Greek mythological entities in that same symbol that could bring on different things. So what are your thoughts?
So, okay, here's where, my thoughts when it comes to tarot in general usually doesn't go along with the generalized thoughts. I think you know that. We've had lots of
Yeah,
conversations.
which I
And
love.
so
So
for me, like when we're talking about like a relationship, we're talking about love, whatever. This is my absolute favorite card in the deck. Like you take the lover's card and throw it away as far as I'm concerned. When it comes to a relationship, if I'm asking about a relationship that I'm, hopeful that is going to be happy, this is the card I want to see.
right,
And so for me, this is a card of a harmonious relationship. This is that deep love, passion, commitment, partnership. But what's the extreme opposite of that, right?
exactly.
Hate,
Disharmony.
murder, like,
Well, yeah,
taking it to the
abuse.
extreme. And
Yeah,
that's where I think that caduceus symbol, the duality comes in, is this is such a deep emotional connection that if turned upside down could have devastating consequences.
I absolutely agree. I absolutely agree. That's, yeah. And just like that's the same with any card, there's always going to be the shadow side of it. There's always going to be the side of it of what, what are where are the imbalances that can be present if this card is coming up. So on the as far as a very good healthy relationship, you can definitely use some of that healing,
Mhm.
mistaken identity stuff of all the medicinal. We find healing in good partnerships and unions. We find healing in healthy relationships, whether it's any partnership, whether it's a love partnership or a career
Right.
partnership or
But
friends.
we
There's healing to be
also
found.
find good communication is the key to happiness and a good relationship. And that's where the Hermes part comes in.
That's right.
Hermes
That's
is all
right.
about communication,
Yeah.
right? The messenger, making sure the message gets heard accurately. So you've got both the healing and the medicine of, I'm not even going to try to say the name,
Asclepius. I
Asclepius.
think I'm getting better at it.
Yeah.
Asclepius.
So you've got that healing and that medicinal type energy, but you also have the energy of the messenger god of
Yes.
Hermes, of the
Yes.
communication, of that, mercurial nature of, you know, I mean, any relationship expert is going to tell you that the key to a healthy relationship is good communication. So
Absolutely.
it really does bridge both of those Greek gods together.
Right.
So
Right.
was it really mistaken? Who knows,
Yeah. Either way, it works on both levels.
Hmm.
Now, so Hermes is, and just for anybody who's joined or who's watching who doesn't maybe know the Greek mythology, just to make that clear, so Hermes being a messenger god is because he's the one who's kind of responsible for relaying messages between all the different gods, and he gets around. He can go to the underworld. He can go to any place and location to deliver messages. And so, yes, definitely being a communication god. Another thing that Hermes is known for is he is the god of boundaries. And I think that was more meant to be literal boundaries in ancient times, but I take that very much as where do we need to make sure to solidify our energetic boundaries in a relationship? Because some of those imbalances we're talking about are some of the things that go south or go poorly in a relationship or a union or a pairing, can sometimes be really chalked up to having not healthy boundaries.
Hmm.
And being either too open or too guarded or too closed or any imbalance in that situation. So I actually love that he's also known as the god of boundaries. And he's also the god of thieves, I believe, too. Is that right?
I
Yeah,
believe so.
thievery, thieves, which again, not just trying to dump a bunch of negative juju into this card. It's just more about being aware of, because very few
No,
relationships
but
are perfect. So,
when you think about the way that we as human beings describe things, like we talk about, oh, he stole my heart. You
ooh, see,
it's
I
like,
love when you have those good idioms. That was so good.
I
Yes, he
mean, when
stole my
you
heart.
think about the god of thievery, but also communication, boundaries, health, healing, all of that
Right.
comes together to have, like I said, my favorite relationship card.
Yeah.
Because everything about it is what you want when you're talking about a healthy, happy relationship, a true partnership.
Right, right. Yes. Yeah, I love that. Um,
But
yeah.
But then when
also,
it, the shadow side, then you're looking, you're watching an episode of Snapped, so it can be.
exactly. So I just taught at StarCon this past weekend, and I did a twist of the mark because I'm a martial arts instructor. If anybody doesn't know, and I did a little bit of a martial arts intersection with tarot. And I pulled out this card. I was mainly looking at cards like, the Eight of Swords and the Devil, like things that already have heavy energy that we all know is going to be a heavy card. And I was like, okay, let's look at this one. And it's, because this doesn't look like it's a situation where you need defense or where you need a martial arts move. But I think that the way she's holding her cup with two hands and he's, I don't, hopefully it's not too blurry, got one hand, but the other is reaching. And I'm like, okay, that could be interpreted in a million different ways. But is he reaching to like, because one of the most quickest ways to grab or assault somebody is to grab and pull, grab and control. So grab a wrist, pull, yank, not let them leave the situation. So I taught them a wrist grab escape, very easy self-defense wrist grab escape. Because sometimes, again, when a relationship goes, sour or ends in abuse, unfortunately, there's not always like a lot of blaring red flags. So it's kind of like knowing the subtle ones, like are they just a little bit controlling, but you're waving it off? Is that going to turn into more of an aggressive controlling? Again, not trying to add
Yeah.
all the toxic stuff to this card, but
No, but
it's worth understanding what could hide in that card, what the
right.
layers.
And it could be the opposite too. I mean, she's got a good grip on that cup. Maybe that's his defensive move.
Yeah,
Maybe he's afraid she's about to hit him with that cup.
right,
He could be
right.
blocking.
That's true. That's true. Maybe she's the one who's going to be the aggressor.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it could
Exactly.
go either
But
way with
also,
that duality of
obviously,
the
for people who are doing
two
tarot,
snakes.
this can obviously be a very positive card. We're obviously like, oh yeah, like snapped and murder. But it can obviously point to very healthy, very good
I think
unions and good
normally it
relationships.
does. Normally,
Yes,
like I
normally
said,
it
it's my
does.
favorite card for healthy relationships. I think most of the time it is a very, very good card.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. So let's talk a little bit because obviously we're talking about all that good Greek mythology and both the different, people that are involved in that. Let's talk about the snakes because obviously that's a whole damn symbol in itself.
There's the
Um,
duality there
yeah,
too.
well, especially with two snakes intertwining, you definitely have the duality, but you have a duality in a single snake too because there's a duality to the snake
Right,
energy as well.
because
So what are your thoughts on that?
so I know right now, especially like in the tarot community as a whole, snakes are almost revered as much as cats at this
Yes,
point. There's because they are used as a symbol of transformation. They shed their skin and their growth and immortality and all these different things. But at the same time, you can link it back further. A snake is a snake. It's a warning. It's deceptive. It's deadly. The venom, and so it's again that duality of, is this a good snake? Is this a bad snake?
right. And remind me, because I'm not as fluent in Lenormand. Isn't there a snake card in Lenormand?
There is,
And
and
is it a little bit
it's
more
bad.
that it's usually more the
It,
negative kind of what we
it
think of as
is,
snake
yeah,
in the grass or kind of all that kind of deception, right?
yeah. Deception,
Okay.
betrayal, yeah,
Right, right.
absolutely. Like you want to. It's a warning. Just like kind of think about it. Like, what does it do? Right? So if we broke down each card or each symbol into, rather than what does it symbolize, what does it do?
Yeah,
What is its function?
right.
And a snake, if you walk up on a snake out in the wild, it's most likely going to be scared because you're huge in comparison. It's going to attack.
Exactly.
It's going to defend itself.
Right.
And as far as a snake shedding, we think of transformation and all this beautiful stuff. But what does a snake do? It sheds to become a bigger
And
snake
more threatening.
and more threatening.
Right.
So when you break down the function of the symbol of what does it
Hmm.
do, you can see a little bit more clearly how to interpret as that aspect. But then when you bring in the spirituality, and you can see the dualistic other side of it. There's good and
Right,
bad in
right.
everything.
Oh,
There's no
absolutely.
such thing, in my opinion, as all good or all bad. Like everything to
Right.
some degree, even, something as simple as a sunflower. There's people that are allergic to them. I
Exactly.
mean, it
Exactly.
doesn't matter what the symbol is, it's got both positive and negative aspects. But as a general whole, I mean, I, I think that's where the language of tarot comes in. And when the snake comes up, what's surrounding it, what's the context, all of that.
Exactly, exactly. And if you think about, again, going back to the Two of Cups, like we're talking about all these different nuances and layers within a relationship or a pairing, and no relationship is going to be 100% perfect every step of the way. So some of that duality of what that we find in snake energy is also going to be, there's going to be some of that within a relationship too, the oppositions of you're going to have your bad days and where you're not maybe communicating well or things are a little rougher. You're going to have your good days where things are very blissful. That's even in a healthy relationship. So, that the kind of the finding the equilibrium between the two, which I think there's some of that good equilibrium balance energy in the caduceus simply because of it's again, we talked about, you said being symmetrical, which I love. It's like, well, this is a better branded symbol because it feels symmetrical and it feels balanced with the two
And
intertwining snakes.
the other thing about that is with the two intertwining snakes, it creates the um, infinity symbol.
Yes,
So
it's like
we're
the
looking
Ouroboros.
at,
Yeah, yeah.
eternal life. We're looking at immortality. We're looking at longevity.
Right.
So again, relationship wise, with that symbol, that might be an indicator that, yeah, this is a long-term healthy relationship. Like this is potential marriage partner, you know?
Right.
So you've got these different layers because of the way the snakes kind of weave around that and create that um, symbol of
Kind of
eternity.
equilibrium. Oh yeah, an eternal, yes, and a kind of that eternal one. Yes. I love that. Um,
And to link them together,
mhm.
the other thing I was thinking about is we talk a lot, especially in tarot because of the magician, about the Ouroboros, which
Right.
is the snake wrapped around eating its own tail.
Hmm.
Cats do the same thing when they sleep. Have you seen
Oh, the
they will
way
curl.
they curl
They
themselves
curl
completely into a
themselves.
spiral or a circle.
Yeah.
Yes,
So again,
yes.
it's that symbol of eternity and
Right.
immortality.
Oh, I love that. That actually just gave me chills. I love that association between the two of them. I love that. Ooh. See, every time I get chills, I'm like, oh, that's a good one. That's a really good one. Um, I was also reading about if I keep I know we keep going back a little bit to some of the Greek, but I just love Greek mythology, so I'm always going to probably stay rooted in there for a lot of the symbology. But going back to Hermes, the staff of Hermes, um, that that the staff of Hermes was originally made of gold in theory, and there's a lot of alchemical energy in snakes too, because snakes
Hmm.
were a symbol in alchemy. And if you think about gold was kind of one of the end goals of a true alchemist trying to turn base metals into gold. That's another way you can find another layer in this as far as the Two of Cups and those relationships that you're going to have to probably do the hard work and transmute some stuff to really get to that good stuff at the end. And it takes time and it takes kind of dedication to a relationship and to a
Yep.
partnership, to find the gold in it, and really it's not going to probably be at the very beginning. It's going to take time,
Yeah, it's
you
going to take
know.
a blending of the
A
two.
union, yeah, union
Mhm.
and a blending, exactly. Ooh, I love that. Do you have anything else on snakes or caduceus energy that kind of, speaks to you as far as other thoughts?
I mean, I think it is interesting that, and I think it's because of that. Like I said before, I think originally snakes were seen as very detrimental. They were dangerous. They
Right,
were, they were a warning. But because the caduceus is used in healing, in medicine, and all of that, they are now seen as a healing thing because again, like I said, they use venom to make the antivenom.
right,
There's all these healing properties of the snake that I don't necessarily think would have come to pass as much if that wasn't the symbol chosen.
right. No, no, yeah, it's almost like that mistaken
Well,
identity, gave
I
it a
mean,
whole new
even the
life.
rod of Asclepius had the serpent. So, I mean, that
Well,
would
that's
still,
true. That's true.
but I just mean in general, like I find it very interesting that the rod of Asclepius had the serpent and it
Right,
was a symbol for the god of healing and medicine and health.
right,
Because
right,
again, most people, especially back then, that it was seen as a scarier symbol. I mean, you had basically like, the serpents, and if you want to link it to Christianity, the serpent
Mhm.
in the Garden of Eden that convinced Eve to eat the apple, or the asp, that
Cleopatra or
with Cleopatra.
right.
I mean, all of these things were always negative when you look at the very old stories about snakes. You're very unlikely to find a 1,000, 2,000 year old story of a helpful snake.
Right, right.
That particular rendition of serpents and snakes and whatnot is a little bit newer, and it's a little bit more nuanced. And I think it's because when somebody thinks of health and healing and all of that, they see that image, and so they link it together.
Yeah.
Had they chosen something different, then I think we might still see the snake as just detrimental.
Yeah. I think that's a really good point. And it's that kind of brings up the point in general how symbols take on these collective energies
Mm-hmm.
based on the connotations that they're given over time in different cultures and history. That there's so much of loaded in a symbol and what we associate it with and why. So which is essentially what you're touching on. I think that's always fascinating because you're right. At base value, it's kind of a scary little bugger. And then also I think we should talk about too the earth energy,
Mm-hmm.
because the snake is obviously literally belly crawling, on the ground, so it's closest to the earth of more than most creatures other than maybe
Mm-hmm.
insects. It is literally like belly to the ground, uh grounded, connected to the earth. It's definitely got some of that primal earth energy. Um I think also with the Two of Cups, since that is the cups is that suit of the emotions and suit of water. You think about water being very, very healing, and it kind of goes nicely with that, the snake kind of healing energy too. But you think about snake energy is kind of earth energy, more primal, possibly mixed with the water energy of this card, and then you get
Yeah.
mud.
Yeah.
And do what you will with that, but that's where it's like, you could you
Well,
could take that a lot of directions. Is this couple going to get dirty in a good way, or are they going to start slinging mud and not fight
but then
fair?
there's also the healing powers of
Yeah.
mud.
Oh yeah.
How many spas out there
Get you a mud
charge
mask.
tons and tons and tons of money to cover you in mud?
Yes.
Because the healing powers of
Right.
mud for your skin and all of that detoxifies, pulls the toxins out,
Right.
all
Right.
those different things. So yeah, I totally agree with the earth energy, with the snake and the water, like in the mud, because you're right. The way we talk, right? Slinging mud, that's a negative connotation. But then you've got mud baths that detoxifies, purifies, and cleanses, which is
Right.
the opposite.
Right.
So again, we're back to that duality aspect.
Which really feels like the overarching theme, even with the cat and the caduceus, is kind of that
Hmm.
duality. That's kind of what we keep coming back to.
Right. And
And also,
that's
and
why I chose those symbols. That's why I
yeah,
like them. I like things that are contradictory. I like things
right,
that are, you know, they're both the opposite of each other, as well as I, I don't know how to explain it, but you can't have one without the other, basically.
right, kind of light without dark,
Right.
etc. Yeah. And it
Yeah.
almost points
Without
a little
dark,
bit
there's no
to,
light, and vice
right,
versa. Like love,
right.
hate,
It points a little bit to that our shadow side too, that there's beauty in finding equilibrium between all parts of ourself, and
Right.
accepting all parts of ourself, even the parts that are ickier to look at, or that are in opposition.
And
But when you can
it,
marry the two, that's where true union comes from, is finding equilibrium between the opposing things.
And what can you do to transform the darker into lighter? Like, how
Right.
can you alchemize that to be beneficial?
Yes. Transmute it.
Like
Yes.
taking that snake venom and creating an antivenom to heal. Take
Right.
what normally kills and use it to heal.
Right.
Same thing, they, like I said, with herbs and everything, it's about dosage, it's about, combination. Certain things together are deadly where other things are not.
Right.
So that's kind of, what I really like about these particular symbols. Like I said, even with cats, you never know what you're going to get with them.
Right. They're both complex
Hmm.
symbols because there's not really any quick, easy surface value. It's you got to almost do the digging in both these symbols if you really want to appreciate their totality. Um, And like you, I mean, I think you're a very complex, beautifully complex
Well,
person. And,
thank you.
well, I mean, obviously everybody is to some degree, but some people are, maybe a little less so. But so I love that you chose these two. And I don't think I even saw some of the parallels until you kind of helped me see that in this talk, which I've loved. So thank you for helping me kind of see the intersections between them too.
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you for inviting me. So,
absolutely. Yeah.
what's the release date? I know it's
Oh
April,
yeah,
right?
technically it's April 5th is when it'll all be officially ready. You can pre-order on Amazon and such now. And it'll be a separate book and deck. And where can people find you and your offerings and all your goodness?
The easiest way to find me is through my website, and that's just catiara.com.
Catiara.com. That's nice and
Yep.
simple. And
Yep.
you obviously do lots of different readings. And you're again a very active, very awesome reader.
Thank you.
Is there anything else like, do you have any classes in the works or anything like right
You know,
now that you're putting
I have a
together
lot of
that you'd
things in
like
the
to
works, but
share?
nothing currently offered at the moment. I'm
Sure.
working. I'm working on a book. I'm working on a class. I'm working on a bunch of things. Nothing is where I'm ready to present to the world
Gotcha.
yet.
Because you're mysterious like a cat. You know when to stay a little guarded and hold back.
But it's coming. It's coming.
Right.
It's a process.
Right. I get you. I get you. I would suggest to anybody who is watching this, number one, follow Kat because she's amazing. Follow her here on the socials, but also go to catiara.com and sign up for her newsletter because I actually don't subscribe to a lot of newsletters because, honestly, it becomes a little bit like just more stuff that's in your inbox. I actually look forward to your
Aw.
newsletters because you have I really like the readings in there and stuff.
I try to
And
keep them pretty basic, pretty
right,
simple, because I know we all live very busy lives.
right,
And every once in a while I'll write a longer newsletter, but for the most part, yeah, they're just quick to the point. Here's your cards. Good luck,
right. But
that
you
kind of
always have a
thing.
good message in there, like a little bit of guidance in there, which I love, with with the card pulls and stuff. So definitely sign up for Kat's newsletter because I'm assuming, especially when all these things start to really become more public, you'll definitely be
Oh,
keeping people in the know there for sure.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. How would you feel about doing just a quick card pull for everybody, just to leave everybody with a final, and then we can laugh hysterically if we get any snake or cat energy or caduceus energy in the card we pull.
Okay.
If you're up
Are
for it,
you
I'm
gonna
not
pull
trying to
one
put you on the
too?
spot. Yeah, I'll pull one. I think
Okay.
I'll pull just a symbol card. Actually, what I'll do is I'll use my symbol deck and I'll shuffle and I'll wait. See what I find first. The snake. I don't snake, caduceus, or cat. I have all three kind of hidden in there. So I'll see what I find first and see what's in front of it. I think that's what I'll do. Just because
Okay. I'm
then it
just
might
gonna
be.
shuffle and just pull a random card, and we'll see.
Yeah, if you don't mind me putting you in the spot, I'd love to just leave everybody with a little. What's in the air? What'd you get?
I got Seven of Swords. So,
No, I'm just kidding.
but to me, that goes great with what we're talking about. It's that deception.
Yes.
It's the deceptive nature of both the cat and the serpent,
Right.
you know? I mean, not necessarily the caduceus as a whole, because that is like the healing and the medicinal or whatever. But when you break down that symbol and you've got the serpent and you've got the cat, they're both very deceptive. But just being deceptive doesn't necessarily mean it's bad.
Well, sometimes
Some,
you have to be a little to protect yourself and protect
exactly,
your,
or
you
protect
have
someone
to.
else.
That's right. That's right. You have to be a little bit
So,
guarded and a little, yeah,
and again, I don't like reading just single
sure,
cards. So,
sure.
what is this in context with what you've got?
Let me see. Let me finish my little shuffle here. Okay, so I'm going to see. Hopefully, this won't be the end of the deck and take forever. I was going to see which card I hit first of all these things we're talking about, and then I'm going to read the card right in front because I feel like the energy will be linked somehow. And see, of course, it might be like the very last card in the deck, so people are just like, I need some of that music, like on a game show. That's like while you're
Like that
waiting.
Jeopardy theme
Yeah,
song
like
or
little Jeopardy
something.
or something. All right, let's see here. Come on. Nothing yet. Sorry. Come on. Where are you at? Where are you at? Where are you hiding?
Cat, caduceus, serpent, something.
Something.
Ouroboros.
I've got all of them in here. They should be coming up. Let's go. Yeah, I'll take a Ouroboros too if I get to it first. They're all going to be like loaded right at the back together. That's hilarious. Any day now, day now. Hum a little song. Oh, here we go. I got cat. Okay, so here's the cat. Right before the cat, I had falcon.
Ah,
Um,
so when we think about this Seven of Swords and the Falcon,
well, obviously the swords is air energy, and the falcon is definitely a master of the sky and the air. But on a bigger level, I feel like falcon is such a supreme being that is even of the birds, even of the big birds of prey, they build their nests at the highest peaks and highest crags and cliffs. And they have that vantage point of really being able to see because they have such amazing vision for the hunt. They can see the details down below and from up high. And so I would say with some of that deceptive energy and that duality, it's almost like be a little bit discerning about
hmm
really look and observe before you make,
yep,
decisions. Don't be too quick to make the decision. Really hone your skills. So between the falcon having that supreme vision and the cats having that supreme hearing that we talked about, be very aware and you'll be able to spot the deception more easily. Use the faculties you have.
yep,
Use
that's
your
what I would
vision,
say
which
too.
is this as well as this. Use your hearing, listen to what people are saying and listen to what they're not saying,
That's
so
the
you
biggest
can
thing I think
discern.
of when I think of Seven of Swords is people talk about like, deception, lies, betrayal. To me, this is a card of omissions.
Oh, omissions.
What are they not
Yes. What are they
saying?
not saying?
And
Yes.
that is where the Falcon comes in because the Falcon is going to see and hear what's not being said.
Yes. Yes. So there's your message, guys. Be a little bit on guard. Not afraid, just on guard. Just be very aware and very discerning and listening
Which is
and
what you want
hearing and
to
watching.
do when you're dealing with both a cat and a snake,
That's
anyways.
right. That's right. Well, this was fabulous. Thank you so much, Kat, for joining me. This was a really fun talk, and I love nerding out with you. Um,
Well, thank you for inviting me. I had a great time.
Good. Thank you again. Thank you to everybody who popped in and hung out with us. And if you're watching this in the afterplay, thank you and wishing you all a wonderful going into February here soon and a Lunar New Year going into Snake Energy
Yes.
collectively. Let's all kind of go into that snake energy and think what it means to us.
And it's a new moon.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's right. It's a new moon in Aquarius, right?
So it's
It's a
it's
potent
all sorts of things
day.
going on.
Yeah, there's a lot of energy today. Yeah. Again, we just scheduled this randomly, but I'm like, ooh, we picked a potent day and I like it. Nice. Well, thank you again. I really appreciate it.
All right. Well, you have a great afternoon.
You too. Bye, everybody. See ya.
Bye.